A Texas woman was traveling with her 16-month-old son, and she was apparently kicked off her flight home after she accidentally misgendered a flight attendant.
What?
My son and I are at United Airlines waiting for our flight from San Francisco to Austin, and the flight attendant has denied access to us because he said that I made a derogatory comment about one of the flight attendants because I didn't use the right pronoun. Now they are forbidding us to get on the plane. I am with my son. He is 25 pounds. I've been carrying him for about 30 minutes. They denied us boarding priority.
All right. I have a lot of things to say about this United Airlines thing, but the first thing I want to explain to you is she paid for services. The first thing that she can do and should do is sue United Airlines for theft of services. Because when she paid for the services, there was a guarantee to get her to wherever she was going at the time frame that they said that they could get her to that location. By kicking her off the plane for gender activism, they became liable for the money that she lost, at least, because you don't really know what that need for going to wherever she was going actually could have been. It could have been a new job interview. It could have been a new business venture. If not being there meant potentially a loss of more money, United Airlines could lose millions, even billions of dollars for doing this kind of shit. And I don't know who this woman is, but my contact information will be in the description. Please contact me. I will represent you.
Good evening. I am Anatoly Anatolisova, and this is Patriots Must Rise. I opened up this episode with a Ben Shapiro clip about a woman that was kicked off a plane because of misgendering. I did that specifically to show that our society's gotten way too sensitive about words. Way too sensitive. I do not understand what happened that Americans became such snowflakes. But then again, I kind of do. It seems to be encouraged. It's encouraged by our media. It's encouraged by other people's behavior. And it's weakening who we actually are as a people. So, as you go through these clips, try to understand where I'm coming from.
This morning, I got a knock on the door from the Secret Service, and I learned firsthand how we actually do not have free speech in America. They just wanted to know why I was posting negative things about Joe Biden. Seriously? Does anybody have anything positive to say about that old has-been that can't help but soil his diapers? Okay. More about the Secret Service coming and invading my home during my much-needed sleep. I just get to sleep. My
My dad answers the door and people banging on the door. Then I kind of hear them or him talking to whoever's there. And he goes, he works nights, he probably just got to sleep. Yeah, well, we need to talk to him. All right. That doesn't bother me. But here's what bothers me. They took time out of whatever they were doing to waste time on me. When the most hated president, the most hated world leader since Caligula is still sitting in the White House. And he can't keep his diapers clean. I don't know if that's in the Secret Service's job description now, but somebody needs to wipe his ass. All right. Enough with that little rabbit trail. Here's where I'm going with this. They come in and they want to talk to me about hate speech, calls for violence. Let me explain something to the Secret Service. Okay? I can say anything I damn well please on my channel, and nobody that follows me is going to take it as a call to violence. Why? We're conservatives. Liberals will burn down their own fucking town and call it a protest. A conservative will wait for the right moment and just start blowing things up. It's not a call to violence. It's an organic revolution. This is the reality of it. Okay? A conservative has trained their entire lives to defend our nation, be it through the military or in their own backyard. They know what they're doing. Liberals call it prepping. It's not prepping. It's survival. Because everything the liberals are doing is making it necessary. All right, so they're standing in my living room and they read this post, and the post is about how I feel that every pedophile needs to be put in a wood chipper or something like that. And I go on to say that since every Democrat is a pedophile, you can read into the rest. Apparently some snowflakes actually thought that that was a threat. I don't care. I really don't. If you felt that that was a threat, you probably shouldn't be touching kids. I want you to consider why it is that we are so sensitive about what people call us. How come words are considered violence? I opened up with a clip where Ben Shapiro introduces a woman that is kicked off of a United Airlines plane because some homosexual activist decides that she was rude. That's going to be a major lawsuit in the future, I guarantee it. And the woke airline is going to be paying for it, probably with the loss of their airline. With the next clip, we have Joy Reid trying to discredit Trump by introducing somebody that is apparently offended that the President of the United States is talking about executing somebody that actually leaked information. I don't understand why liberals don't or see a problem with this at all. But the reason I bring this up is this is a woman that has, throughout the pandemic, throughout the lockdowns and the push for the jab, said openly on air that anybody that doesn't or didn't get the jab, didn't get the vaccine, wasn't social distancing and so on, needed to be locked away in internment camps, needed to be beaten. But did she ever see an officer from the Secret Service on her doorstep? She's a public figure. Nobody even knows who I am.
Donald Trump is not okay. But his cognitive decline goes far beyond just verbal slip-ups. It's his increasingly deranged and dangerous rhetoric that's particularly concerning. Don't just take it from me. His own former White House communications director, Alyssa Farah Griffin, said in an interview this weekend that during his administration, Trump casually talked about executing people multiple times in meetings.
Caitlin Collins, to her credit, CNN interviewed Bill Barr and asked about an anecdote that I had shared about a meeting he and I were both in the Oval Office, where Trump straight up said a staffer who leaked a story should be executed. And Bill Barr kind of danced, said, like, I don't recall that specific instance, but there were others where he talked about executing people. And I'm like, how you rationalize that is a person fit in sound judgment to be president of the United States?
Okay, I started out this video with a woman and her son being kicked off of United Airlines. That Ben Shapiro, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Ben Shapiro clip that opened up this video. And I think the direction that I need to go with this video is that we've gone way overboard with being concerned about other people's feelings. I'll tell you right now, I could really care less about what gender you want to identify yourself with. If you have hard zygomatic bones, if you have pronounced Adam's apple. If you do not have the pronounced hips, don't try to make me call you Mrs. Don't try to tell me that you're a female. I don't know how we got to this point, but it seems to be an international problem. And the fact that it has become an international problem says that certain activist groups have gotten way too powerful. So just maybe we need to tear them down a few notches and kick them out of schools permanently. So I am going to be going into a specific event that happened this week. Interesting event with the Secret Service. And apparently the Secret Service, rather than protecting the most retarded leader in world's history, is now tasked with tracking down social media posts and harassing people. A brilliant, absolutely brilliant use of our taxpayers' money. Thanks, Joe. The DEI hire in the White House, I think her name is Kamala Harris. She's furious that she's not being considered for president. Let's go back to 2020 and remember that the Democrat Party didn't even want you to run. They literally pulled that DEI hire out of the garbage and recycled her into a vice president, because that's what Democrat douchebags do. If it's broken, you don't fix it. You just put it on another shelf.
Justice Department released a 3-hour video of the battle between rioters and Capitol Police on January 6th. The video is graphic evidence of the violence behind an attempt to influence the outcome of the 2020 election. Jessica Snyder reports.
A 3-hour video just released by the Justice Department after CNN and other outlets sued for access shows one of the most violent and prolonged battles between Capitol Police and the pro-Trump mob. The video, taken from a Capitol security camera on the Lower West Terrace, does not have sound, but it shows how dozens of rioters moved in on Capitol Police, spraying the cops who stood guard with pepper spray, pointing strobing flashlights at them, striking them with batons and flagpoles. More than an hour in, when police pushed back,
it is awfully convenient that this footage for January 6th doesn't have sound.
January 6th prepares to ramp up its probe.
This was a witch hunt.
Chairman Benny Thompson tells the Washington
Post, you will see
he's
with
focusing on then President Trump's actions,
George Floyd
zeroing in
riots.
on this video he released 187 minutes after the riot began.
You have to go home now.
Thompson telling the Post, it appears that he tried to do it.
I had a visit from the Secret Service at my apartment for supposedly inciting violence. What I'm showing you is liberals inciting violence and congressmen looking the other way. How many BLM protesters had the Secret Service visiting their apartments? There's a big difference here, and a double standard. We have no free speech in America. This is no longer a free country.
Riots, protests,
but we
and
can
looting
take
have
it back.
broken out in Minnesota as Black Lives Matter supporters congregate together in support of Daunte Wright, who was killed by a police officer on Sunday. On Tuesday, police had made more than 60 arrests as protesters took to the street to beg for justice. 26-year-old Kim Potter, a white woman, was charged with the fatal shooting of 20-year-old Daunte Wright at a traffic stop on Sunday, not far from where George Floyd died.
No, female girl power on you, but the United States has never elected a female president. Ever. And the first one's not going to be Kamala Harris. It's going to be somebody truly extraordinary, somebody articulate, somebody strong, somebody who is a leader. It's not going to be Kamala Harris. There's, for whatever reason, there's like a skepticism about it, probably because we've never had it. And even though we've had strong female leaders at the senatorial level and, in other countries, I think Americans are just kind of used to the one thing. It's like the way I felt when I went to an Episcopal church the other day. I'm like, why are there female priests? That's not a thing. I'm skeptical. I'm a Catholic. I'm used to the men. The first female leader is not going to be Kamala Harris. And indeed, it cannot be. For the sake of womankind and our future in this position and roles, it cannot be such a moron. We need somebody who actually can do the job and who we can look up to, even if we disagree with her politics. She's not it. Each other. They're turning on each other at the lower levels. The lower folks are turning on the higher folks. That's what the report in Politico was about this morning that you referenced earlier, MBD, about how there's fury now, reportedly, by other staffers at Biden's tight circle for keeping them out to where they had no idea. Okay, sure. I have nothing to do with the Biden circle, inner or outer, and I knew. You guys knew. So spare me their protestations, but I'm sure it is true that just how bad it was, like what we saw at the debate, has been kept a secret. This was the lead this morning on Morning Joe, where Joe Scarborough, after coming out after that Thursday night debate on Friday morning and calling for President Biden to give it up, saying, I don't think he can do it. He was his number one cheerleader, has been absent all week. It's like a single vacation. His wife is sitting there. I don't know about you. I don't go on week-long vacations without my husband. That's not a thing for us. But he's gone for right now. She's been out there. She's a big Biden supporter. But nonetheless, this is how Morning Joe opened this morning in part. Watch.
A lot of calls for the president to make calls. And my sources are telling me he's going to make them simmer. But here we go.
So, Eli, you're part of a reporting team for Politico that includes our buddy Jonathan Lemire, out with a new piece titled, "We've All Enabled the Situation. Dems Turn on Biden's Inner Sanctum Post Debate." So,
they came up with this rationale for him to run anyway, that he's the only person who's ever beaten Donald Trump, and thus he has to be the candidate again. And I think now the view across the party, at least among a lot of the people that we talk to, is that seems to be a pretty self-serving and maybe delusional case for another 4 years.
Jim Vandehei, your piece with Mike Allen for Axios this morning for your Behind the Curtain column is entitled "Democrats Rage at Biden Rises." Explain what you're hearing.
Yeah, I would say we've talked to literally dozens of House members, most of whom aren't going to go on the record yet. The ones who are going to go on the record already have. They're furious. Like, they're just not buying it.
And his piece went on to say, as a Democratic strategist in a battleground state put it, the number of people who have access to the president has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller. They've been digging deeper into the bunker for months now. And said the strategist, the more you get into the bunker, the less you listen to anyone. This is what happens when you're losing. Everybody turns on everybody, Charles. Like, that's losing begets more losing, begets anger and blame. Usually that happens after the November election. It's happening now because the presidency, the campaign itself, is imploding.
Yeah, well, this is what happens when you're losing, but it's also what happens when you're lazy and you have around you this carapace of support from the press that lets you get away with making what was described in that segment as self-serving arguments. The argument before the debate was that Joe Biden is the only choice that Americans can make if they want to preserve their democracy, which doesn't really make sense on its own terms. Now that argument
major shifts in these polls, but of course in a race like this it wouldn't take a major shift to be pretty decisive. CNN poll released this afternoon, Trump 49, Biden 43. Now obviously a 6-point lead for Trump. That's very eye-catching here. Keep in mind though, last time CNN polled this race, this was back in April, some time ago, but the last time they polled this race, they also found 49-43. When they found this result back in April, that then was the biggest margin Trump was leading by in any poll at that time. A lot of other polls then were much closer. This was largely dismissed as an outlier poll. Now, could this one be too? We'll see as more polls come out in the coming days. One thing to keep in mind, when you get an outlier, often it's the result of sort of a statistical blip with your sampling. It can happen from time to time, but when that happens, you'd usually expect that the next poll wouldn't have the same problem. So could this be two outliers, or is this perhaps more accurately measuring right now than back in April in the CNN poll? Because the other thing to keep in mind in the CNN poll is that question of Kamala Harris. They tested as well Harris against Biden. So again, you see Trump leading Biden, Harris against Trump, excuse me. You see Trump leading Biden 49-43. When you put Harris in this poll, that 6-point gap for the Democrats comes down to 2 points. So they have Harris doing better than Biden. They also, CNN did, it checked 3 other Democrats against Trump. None of them were beating Trump, but all of them were closer than Biden. 4 Democrats in total that CNN polled. So that's a little context for that 6-point.
A while back, I posted a video about a shelter for pedophiles that had just been released into society. What made it newsworthy is the fact that this particular shelter was never introduced to the community that it's in. And instead of trying to protect the community, the mayor decided to just build this facility only a couple blocks away from a school. And we're concerned about how people feel about being called a pedophile, instead of actually protecting the children that are going to that school. We have some big moral dilemmas in this country, in this society in general, that we need to start addressing. We're not going to do that with an election. We're not going to do that with the best man in office. We need to do that by correcting each other, being accountable for our neighbors, and actually trying to rebuild what the Marxists have destroyed. I am Anatoly Anatolyeva. This is Patriots Must Rise. Please, live free, die well, and love your neighbor as Christ has loved you.